Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel with a new video about World of Tanks, and today it's the second half of our clan war versus the RDOW, the Royal Dogs of War. And this is our fifth battle in the third map, Steppes. But this is the enemy pick. They chose Steppes and we had to adapt. We had to elaborate a strategy while choosing our composition and selecting our tanks in the lobby. So we came up with a combination of medium and heavy tanks, myself in a bad shot. And alongside with two of the medium tanks, our role is to spot early on to get some information about the enemy deployment. As you can see, the enemy team picked a majority of heavy tanks, which means that one, they are going to defend their base, or two, they are pushing on either side of the map. And here we just spotted two of their heavy tanks, which probably means that the rest of them are just behind. This is more than enough for us. Because we know where the majority of their tank is, even if we spotted only two of them, it would be a nonsense to send only two heavy tanks isolated. And also, whether they are 2, 3, 4, 5, well, we don't want to engage them frontally with only some medium tanks. So what we are doing right now is to retreat progressively, but the idea is not just to give them the advantage of the terrain. What we want to do is to set up an ambush, and we want to engage them where they would be the most vulnerable, and that is near our base in A7, B7, because from there they wouldn't have the possibility to use their guns. They would need a very good gun depression, or else they would be forced to expose their lower plate. So yeah, we're just delaying their attack, and if we can, we want to put them into a difficult position. Right now we are just moving through the central part of the map. There's some lower ground in this path, and we can be there undetected if there's no one waiting for us near their base. And that could be a nasty surprise for them, especially if their tank destroyer is just guarding the base alone. That would be ideal for us. This is a risky move because we don't know if they pushed or not with their heavy tanks, but we just got the information that they did. Two of them are spotted in A6, which is also a signal for us that we can push toward this tank destroyer and take him by surprise. He can't shoot me because I'm in lower ground. He can only spot me. If he wants to shoot me, he will have to expose, and as you can see, he's backing out. So I'm switching direction, he's turning his hull, I'm switching directions again, and I thought I had him, but the enemy batshot was protecting his friendly tank destroyer, and this is why I died very early. It was really close because the batshot, when he killed me, was a one-shot kill himself, and a few seconds more and I would still be alive in the back of this nasty tank destroyer, dealing some additional damage. Now we are about to claim our third kill, which will leave the enemy team only with their heavy tanks. So since they are all grouped in one location, and since they are held back, they can't proceed forward to threaten our base, we are very confident here. They would have to rush very aggressively to make sure that our two medium tanks here wouldn't have the time to flank them. And there's a good reason why they aren't doing it. Our heavy tanks are in such perfect position to defend the base that they stand no chance. They would have to cross an open ground, exposing entirely their tank, and unless we screw up massively, we can't lose our base. They sent one heavy tank, but it was too late. The Batrat and the T123 are already dead, so this heavy tank is alone versus our two medium tanks, and I wouldn't bet on his survivability for a very long time. So the key element in this battle was the fact that we started to go into a certain direction. We made them believe that we would care about that flank, but we didn't, and switched plans while being undetected. And the result is that their heavy tank are completely surrounded in the first few minutes of the game in a corner of the map. They have no path to retreat, and in a few minutes it will be all over. So why did this happen? Well, we have more medium tanks than they do. 3 versus 1, and this allowed us to relocate. We had the mobility advantage. And in an open map such as steppes, if you're going to push aggressively with heavy tanks, you're exposing yourself to some flanking. Really, it was ballsy for them to take such a composition. The only advantage for them was at the beginning of the game, when we didn't know where they would be. We couldn't afford to go on one side of the map. And if we separate it, but without having the possibility to regroup or to flank them, their heavy tanks would have had not the DPM advantage, but an advantage in any engagement. So this is why we had to adapt extremely fast. Anyway, this is our 5th victory, which means that this encounter is won because we won 5 out of 8 already, so there's no way for us to lose this clan war. But we decided to continue just because it is part of a contest in which we have to do all 8 battles, and even if we are an outsider, we wanted to follow all the regular rules of this championship. So we're playing again, and this time it's the 7th battle, just because I also forgot to record the TTX, so sorry about that. The TTX was a victory, it was the second game on steppes, and now we are playing on Tundra, which is our pick. And for this game we decided to have a mix of tank destroyers, medium tanks and heavy tanks. This time we went with a very defensive strategy. We have 2 tank destroyers protecting our base. Our medium tanks are scattered just to get again the information where would the enemy push. Our heavy tanks are heading towards the eastern hill just because we assumed that at least some of the enemy would be there, and as I am just saying that and missing my shot, a heavy tank is spotted. My role here is not necessarily to damage them, because I have no support, and if they rush me, I would be in a critical situation. So here I am just pulling backwards, and I just want to force them to expose themselves. And now our tank destroyer and heavy tanks can give me some support fire. Only 3 enemies, well now 4 enemies have been spotted. We don't have any information about their medium tanks, and we were expecting them in the other half of the map, and this is why we kept our 2 medium tanks in defensive locations. And as you can see, one of the medium tanks has been spotted in J1, so far no surprise, and we are sticking to our initial plan. So basically what I am doing is just holding them back, punishing them if they do some stupid mistakes, but as you will see in this replay, I will do more than them, unfortunately. And the idea would be, while being outnumbered, we want to hold them as long as we can, so the rest of our team, including a tank destroyer, would deal with the enemy medium tanks. And the idea is to out DPM the enemy medium tanks, so we could have some backup afterwards. I am side scraping and trying to take the least amount of shots possible, just because what I want is to hold them and not to die in the process. And just now, the 5th enemy heavy tank has been spotted near their medium tanks. However, he was there too late, and our teammates already let us know that this is not an issue and that they have already the numerical advantage. So I asked if some of us had to back up. They say no, it's fine, it's fine. So we are just holding again to the initial plan, and it seems to be working fairly well. We're winning 3-1. So you're looking this clan war through my camera because I am not a spectator this time. And yes, I had some roles, but not necessarily to deal damage. It was either to spot the enemy team or to hold them or to be the bait. In the next game I will be the bait during the entire match. And it's a bit frustrating, but this is part of the clan war. The most important is to have a plan and to stick to it, or to adapt as fast as you can to the enemy plan if he is better or if he is going to counter you. Yet I grew impatient and I took some useless shots here and there, and I am losing more health than what I should. Hopefully we're winning 5-2, so it doesn't matter, but it would have been a mistake if if we were outnumbered in the southern part of the map. So yeah, I know my mistakes didn't have any repercussions in this battle, but it was kind of foolish. I exposed myself too much. And now this is what we call the mop-up stage of the game, because only a few enemies remain and they are spotted, so they stand no chance. They can't escape, they don't have medium tanks, they don't have the possibility to threaten our base, and they will not have the firepower to take us down. So it's a victory, and it is just a matter of who can rack up the most damage. Just one comment about this part of the game. If you have the numerical advantage and you know that the enemy team they can't really escape you, when you're going there, you just want to make sure that you have enough health to withstand their firepower, and you want to go there not one by one, but you want to coordinate your assault, because it is possible for outnumbered opponents to take you down one by one if you're not paying attention and if your remaining tanks in your team are one-shot kills. So yeah, clan wars are not just about strategy and individual skills. They both matter a lot, it is true, but it is also about being able to stay focused during the entire encounter with the enemy clan. And as you can see, the enemy team lost also their patience in this last round because they selected an artillery piece, and it's not that it's inefficient in this map, but in a clan war it's only 8 versus 8, and it's very difficult to protect efficiently an artillery piece. So as soon as it is located, and trust me, everyone will look at the sky and try to locate it approximately, it would be near impossible for them. So it's almost as if they were going one tank down at the very beginning of the game, and I am not sure that the artillery piece will have the time to do any damage earlier. On our side, we decided to keep the same composition from the last game, but to tweak a little bit our strategy, for two reasons. The first one is that by keeping the same composition, we can pretend that we will have the same deployment and the same strategy, but since we are not, it's an element of surprise. The second aspect is that since they picked an artillery piece, it means that they will have one tank less on the front line, so we can have a slightly different deployment just to counter and to adapt to this odd strategy. So we decided to remove a tank from the western flank and to add another one near the eastern hill, just to be slightly more aggressive. The idea for us is mostly to make sure that the enemy artillery wouldn't have the time to deal too much damage to us, and second, to not lose more HP than what we inflict on the enemy team in the process. Again, that was the plan all along, and this time, surprisingly, it was more difficult than before. I don't know why, maybe because we were kind of tired. The clan war started like 2 hours and a half ago, and I wanted to take risks, and it made me do some very stupid mistakes. Like here I exposed my track to the E100, and I was 100% certain that he wouldn't have a shot on it, or that he would miss if he had a very small portion of my tank. So I lost the vast majority of my HP pool for strictly nothing. And this is the kind of mistake that you're doing when you're growing impatient or when you're not paying enough attention to the game. I will have to admit that during those 8 matches I didn't get any significant result. I did not perform well in any of those. I died early on some of them, and even when I survived, I didn't get a lot of damage or blocked damage. I wasn't really efficient, and there's a couple of reasons for that. First is, when we were going to win, like we had already 4 or 5 victories, I started to pay less attention about the outcome of each game. I wanted to win, but I was less focused. And the second element is, although the strategies are working properly, I'm not criticizing them in any way, but it's just that they don't really correspond to my natural gameplay style. Normally I'm the kind of guy during random games that look at the minimap all the time, check the positions of my allies, my enemies, and I adapt to it constantly, and I'm just trying to figure where should I be on the battlefield, and most of the time I am going to try to surprise my opponents or to take them into a crossfire, and I will take the enemy attention, I will draw their attention only if my tank can sustain it, and I am not going to defend the position if I could be somewhere else, if I could be more useful somewhere else. And Clan Wars, it's really different because you are in team with skilled players against a skilled enemy team, which is playing according to a strategy, so that's very important. And personal initiatives, although they're welcome, you still have to make your team leader agree with you, and you have to communicate to your team. And if they say no, you have to stay, well, you just stay, it is more important. So in random battles, I would certainly not play my T62A this way. And it's not frustrating now because I am really enjoying those games, and I enjoy the fact that I'm learning a lot as well. But it's very confusing for me. I am not used to play my tanks like that in Clan War. This is why I would probably be more efficient in my IS-7 in a Clan War, because it would be closer to what I do during a random game. Anyway, surprisingly enough, this last round was the most difficult for us, and they are only one tank down compared to us. So we thought that it would be the last one, they have an artillery piece, it would be a piece of cake, but it certainly was not. And congrats to the enemy team for fighting down until the very last moment. It was really a pleasure to face them. Once more in this round, I am just acting as a bait. I am just forcing them to stay in their position, because if I catch them off guard, my DPM will certainly be a key advantage, and they would not have the chance to finish me off because I was in a defensive position. So unless the Yakpan, the U100 was loading premium ammunition at my turret, it would not have penetrated. So I am just putting some pressure on them, but I am not really attacking. What I'm doing is simply waiting for my two teammates to catch with some decent covering positions, and then we decide within the three of us how to take them down. In a regular game, I would take some risk here because there would be less probability for my enemy to be a good shot, and he probably wouldn't have much gold ammunition. But it's not the case in Clan War, and I can't afford to even expose my turret for too long because he could penetrate it from the front. Instead, he decided to keep his focus on me, which is fine because it allowed my teammate to finish him off without taking any risk. And now the T-57 Heavy is completely alone, and well, it's over for him. So I did nothing in terms of result, even if my presence was useful on the battlefield. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider giving it a like and to subscribe to my channel. And well, thank you for watching, and see you in my next video.